to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Coach Lorianne. Our goal here at Healthy Lifestyle is to inspire, educate, and empower you, especially you, Vince, to fulfill a healthy, emotional, spiritual, and physical life so you too can feel empowered to live the life you have always wanted and dreamed. Welcome to the show. Of course, I gave a little bit of a hint that our great co-host Vince Perrotta is with us today. Hi, Vince. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Coach. How are you today?
I'm doing good. What's going on?
It's been really crazy. Lots of stuff going on, and the pace just seems to be accelerating. You already got that sense that, it's that time of year where there's a lot happening and we don't have a lot of time left.
Yeah. And for this year anyway, hopefully we have a lot of time left to do all the yummy stuff that we're supposed to do.
It's true. But we always give that unnatural or natural boundary, I'm going to say, depending on kind of how you look at it. And but you got a lot of things to think about, a lot of choices to make.
Yeah. I love choices. Choices are good. A lot of people shy away from choices. Matter of fact, I've been hearing that a lot lately about choices, good choices, bad choices, obviously because of what's happening around, the choice of this and the choice of that. What do you think about that?
Well, sometimes I think you don't have a choice, but all right. Well, but choices are tough. Sometimes you're looking at, either they're two difficult choices or maybe they're two really good choices. It can be both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. You know what a couple of my clients said recently is, I'm just not in the right place. And I'm like, no, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. You're exactly in the right place you're supposed to be. And you have all these choices. And they're like, choices? There are no choices. What? No. We really compound it and make it more difficult than it has to be, right? And there's always choices. And I would say, oh my gosh, and this is going to light you up, Vince, I would say there are never wrong choices.
You're right. That will light me up.
So why does that light you up? I know you well enough to know why.
Because there has to be, and I don't want to use the word right, but there has to be a good choice and a poor choice, right? And, some choices are better than others.
Yeah, without a doubt. But that doesn't make it the wrong choice. It makes it the choice that you needed at that time because perhaps you needed to learn something from it. So a lot of the challenges we receive or the discomfort that we receive or are in is because we're supposed to learn something. And we've talked about changing lenses before, right? So if we change our lens and look at what am I supposed to learn, ask yourself that question. Be very curious. What am I supposed to learn in this? I got a flat tire and I'm going to be late for this appointment. Sometimes it's just like, maybe you should have taken care of your car.
Well, it sounds like almost, so when you say all choices are good choices, but maybe what's the right choice for you at that moment, you make even the choice that I might say is not a good choice, or I'd say actually colloquially, I would probably call it a bad choice. That it's a good choice because of the learning. Is that it? It's a good choice because of what I need and what I have to learn by making that choice.
It can be. And what I mean by a good choice versus there are no wrong choice, bad choices, wrong or bad choices is because it's levels. It's a level and it's associated. Your choice, your decision is associated with ramification. Some ramifications are good. Some are not so good. It's almost like the Waze app. There's 3 different ways to get to the same place. One is really, really long. That's usually the difficult one. That's the one I, in the past, have decided to take every time. Now I try to take the direct one, the really short one. So I don't have a lot of learning on the way that I go from here to there because I've already had that learning. And then one's a medium choice, right? One's a medium length time. So those choices and that response have different outcomes. So it may be the bad or wrong choice, what we would deem bad or wrong choice, because the outcome is not necessarily what we want, right?
That's true.
So, but what happens then? We have an opportunity for
change
and learning, right? That's when we ask ourselves, what am I supposed to learn here? Why is this so difficult is the question we ask ourselves. I think the better question, I think we've been asking the wrong question to ourselves is, what am I supposed to learn? So I want everybody to write that down. What am I supposed to learn here? No matter what it is that's been served up to us, when you move into that question, you put yourself in your observer. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. And it takes a good open approach to it. So what am I supposed, okay, here's the outcome. I made a choice. What was I supposed to learn here?
Yeah, yeah. So why don't you give us an example of something that might have happened recently where you think, "Ooh, I could have made a better choice."
My,
Anything come to mind?
my first flashback was to my childhood when you were saying, there's no bad choices. And I was just thinking I would love to be able to tell my mom, the most important thing, Mom, is what am I supposed to learn here? But that was not her style. So that was wrong.
Yeah,
And
that wouldn't have been my parents' style, but it would have been great to have that conversation. I wish I knew that back then.
yeah, we didn't have a lot of conversation about right. That's okay. Because I
It
was,
was a slap at the back of the head. That's the Italian way, Whap. Oh, okay, bad choice.
yep. So I think I could take it from the simplistic to the complex. I'm making decisions right now about my business. I've been exploring, kind of taking my business to the next level, and some of that has been about choosing who I work with and why I work with them, right?
Yes.
And so that's really, really tough because that means I'm going to be saying yes to the people I really think, but I'm going to be saying no to some folks that I might have in the past said yes. So that's a tough choice for me.
So what makes it tough? You use that word tough. What makes it tough or difficult?
So there's the simplistic and the linear, which is I'm actually turning around and saying, okay, no to an opportunity to grow my business to make money. But intellectually, if I think about it, I'm not in alignment with that client. And so it's an opportunity for me to actually help them make a better choice as well. Because for me, it's like, hey, I'm not the right person to work with you. And I think there's a better person that you could be more successful with.
Oh my gosh, but what makes that tough? I think that's great. What you've just done is you're taking a situation that may be deemed challenging because you have to deliver what could be deemed bad information or uncomfortable information, right? But you're really putting them in a better place. So isn't that a good choice?
It is, I guess, but you can even hear it in my answers.
I can
I'm equivocating a little bit because I think you hit it on the head. It's very tough to do, number one. And, there's two sides, right? Like I said, I think it's right for me and for my business, but I'm walking away from what might be an opportunity. So I have to be mindful of that.
So tough to do, but the right choice.
Correct. In the end, I'd like to think that it is the right choice. That's
Tough
right.
to do, but the right choice. So what's the anticipation? What's the hesitation? Is it in the unknown?
Yeah, because so if you walk away from, so if you take your business and you parse it out and say, I'm only going to take this path and I'm going to leave this path, the road less traveled, right? You always wonder what the opportunity was lost there, how much revenue may have been lost there. Who could that, sometimes somebody, you work with a client and then they introduce you to somebody else that becomes an even greater client.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of all of that. It's the unknown. It's
the unknown of what you're leaving on the table is what I'm hearing.
Correct.
The possibilities that you're leaving on the table. Right. But if it was a good fit, even if, let's just play this out for a second. Let's just say you keep that person, you continue to do business with that person. It's not like you get to keep them and, you get to hug them and squeeze them and call them George. You really, you get to keep them and you get that business opportunity. If you don't have the best working relationship now, or it doesn't feel like a good fit now, does that get better if you had kept them?
Probably not. Probably not. Your instincts, and I say this because I coach people who do what I do for a living, and
I know that's why we talk. That's why you're here.
Some things escape me.
It's okay. I'll point them out.
I will coach folks and say that your instincts are usually true, and I kind of, and I use very linear things like you're going to make a choice, right? So if you're making a choice, especially about customers and clients, would you like to have a cup of coffee with that person? I know you're going to work together. And so you would say, well, how important, relationship doesn't, but it is important because if you have a long-term relationship with a customer or client, you want it to be a good one. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, you want to, when the phone rings and their name comes up on that little digital screen, you don't want to have oh, for God's sakes, you want to have I wanted to catch up with them. Right.
That is so funny you say that because that is something I say all the time is when I look at the phone, I am happy. And that's what started to kind of alert me that why do I feel this way about some folks and I don't feel that way about other people? So that brought us back to, I need to start making a choice when I meet someone. And I've actually changed my interactions now, because the first step is when I am with someone, I will say, let's get together and let's talk and see if we are a fit, as opposed to, if you want to work with, no, if you want to work with me, terrific. I'm happy. I have to make sure that I'd like to work with you as well.
Yes, yes. Well, so there's that human factor that's also important to me is let's see if it's a good fit, because I too want to find joy with the people that I'm working with and in doing it. And our instincts, and I just want to come back to what you said, our instincts are true. Our instincts are our inner self saying, yeah, we like this person. This is going to work. If we could tap into our instincts and be present in the moment and really feel that feeling about how that person makes you feel. Again, that goes back to building a better relationship, looking forward to each other, wanting to have that cup of coffee, wanting to help them out. Don't you find, and I don't know if this happens to you, but it happens to me, not that I wouldn't help anybody, because you know me, I'll help anybody who lets me. But I even help people who don't want me to. No, I'm kidding. All right, no, I'm not. But
That's our children.
but don't you help people better when you have that good relationship and you feel really like there's an attachment to helping them be successful, right?
I think there is. The closer you are to somebody, the more invested you are in them. And that's why it's good for the client as well. That's why I said I may not be the right person for you, right? The client or customer you're speaking to, they've got to inspire you in certain ways as much as you're inspiring them. And
Yes.
there's a reward in there that I think comes back, and it does improve the quality of the work, the outcome, and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, yeah. So, and what you're talking about is something that you and I have spoken about before, which is that success equation, that
Yep.
E plus R equals O, the events plus your response, your point of power equals outcome. So the event is you're looking at all your clients. Your response is these work for me. These aren't as comfortable. Let me find them a better home, which might be a better fit for them and for me. Right. And then the outcome is everybody's happy.
Right.
Right. But if
That's
you
really true.
right. But if you continue to work with the people who weren't resonating with you, do you think that resentment kind of builds up a little bit?
I think what happens is it becomes a little bit cautionary. You're not necessarily as engaged to be able to really get that person to give you the info or the whatever it is that you need to help make this relationship successful.
Yeah.
And to your point, actually, it's funny because I have had a conversation. This is a true story. I had a conversation with someone that I was working with, and I told them, I'm the wrong person for you, and I think it's best that we not continue working together. The response that I got back was incredible. Was not what I expected. No, they didn't tell me to go take a walk. Actually, it was quite the converse. They were surprised. They were surprised. And
What were they surprised about?
that that I had said that they didn't, like, they had never thought about it. The relationship to them was one-sided. That I was a provider and they were a purchaser, and that's kind of what the service was. And then as we kind of talked about it in more depth, I explained that's not how this works. That's and it's not how I work. And when you're at a good point in your life, you try to reflect back to the people that you work with the same kinds of things you reflect back to the people you care about, right? Yeah. I'm invested in your success. I'm personally happy that you are well and things are good. It becomes like that circle. It just keeps feeding itself, and it just keeps drawing further and further. So that
but the exercise it's challenging, right? But the exercise that you're doing right now is filled with courage, because you're stepping outside of a comfort zone. You're making decisions, and decisions take courage. And I heard this quote recently: is courage is in the heart, fear is in the mind. And I was like, oh, that's dead on. Courage in the heart to take those actions, because it's a heartfelt action, that it's important enough that you're going to step up out of your comfort zone and go do something that's right, not only for you, but for the other person. Sometimes it's just right for the other person more so than you. But that fear in the heart is the fear of the unknown, the fear of the loss, the fear of what we're leaving on the table. That's fear that's out of our control. So if we go back to that E plus R equals O, fear doesn't fit into that equation.
And it's something that probably we all need to deal with. I had an interesting experience with my son. He was in high school at the time, and we were out fishing one day, and we had decided to go out a little further than we just wanted to check, kind of into out of the inlet and into the open water. Anyway, as we came through, there was an enormous wave coming at us, and literally, I saw this wave about 10 feet over the boat we were in. And I was a little nervous because I was navigating the boat. And as we hit this wave, I just looked at him. I said, "We're fine. Hold on." We hit the wave. And then I had to time it, take a second one, then turn the boat around, and then took a few minutes, got back. The point of the story is, as we were driving back, he looked at me and he's like, "Dad." I'm like, "Yeah." And I said, "That was scary, huh?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You weren't scared." And I took my hand off the wheel of the boat, and my hand was shaking because I was really frightened. And I said to him, "It's okay to be afraid. What's not okay is to lose control and not take the action you need to take, right?
Yes.
Because that's what's important." And I said it to him because I wanted him to know I was afraid. I wanted to show him my vulnerability, but that I like that. But that can't rule what I have to do.
Yeah. So you still took action, appropriate action, but it didn't mean you weren't fearful. I mean, there are times when I know I get up to speak and my heart is here and it's pounding out of my chest. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm sitting there talking myself off the ledge going, and it's not even a dangerous, you were in a potentially dangerous situation. And a lot of that was out of your control. And that's again, it goes back to the unknown. We don't know what that wave is going to do to the boat. We only know how we could possibly respond. And it goes back to what we were saying, that response.
Well, exactly. And no fear. It's not that there's no fear. You have fear. That's okay. But you got to literally say to yourself, "It's okay. I'm afraid right now, but I can't stop."
Yeah.
So
yeah. That's where instinct jumps in as well. I would say and that's why we go and we practice things like firemen and police people. They go and they practice shooting their gun. They practice being in these situations. And it's repeat, muscle repeat, kind of like working out too. It's the muscle memory and repeating. And sports people, same thing. They shoot the hoop, they shoot the hoop, they shoot the hoop. They just keep doing it, not because they're bored. it's for muscle memory to know how to do it and how to do it under different circumstances. Would you agree?
I would totally agree. It's a great example because I mean, you can, and they talk about Michael Jordan always shot so many free throws. Chris Mullin was somebody else, shot hundreds and hundreds of free throws after practice. And I sometimes used to think about, you'd watch those guys step up to the stripe after they got fouled, and the crowd is screaming at the top of their lungs if they're playing in a hostile environment. And they just hit the shot, and it's like, because they had done it hundreds and probably for them thousands of times. Yeah. And that discipline just kicked in, and it was okay. It was an uncomfortable environment. It was difficult.
They stayed in the zone. They stayed in their track. They stayed where they were supposed to do. And, I was recently speaking to someone and they were so concerned about what somebody else was doing. This person's doing this, that, and they're finding success. And I'm like, ooh, keep your eyes on your own page. You got to stay in your own zone. You may not have all those tools yet, or you may be in a different place. The compare and contrast, bad. I don't recommend that because it takes you off of your track. You got to stay on your own track.
Which goes back to choices, right? Because if you made a certain choice, it puts you in a certain place. And that's where, as you were saying earlier, that's where you're supposed to be. Yeah. Somebody else may be in a different place, and you can't replicate. You have to focus where you are and deal with what you have.
Yeah. I had an experience, and it's so funny because I was just like, I want to speak in front of like 20,000 people, blah, 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 and that's a great aspiration, right? Who doesn't, who likes to speak, who doesn't want to do that. Right. And I, because you've known me long enough, my mission is to reach over 1 million people and help them understand their greatness so that they go on and pursue and excel at their purpose. So, but with that said, I was just like, I just don't understand. The first couple of presentations I made, it was like 5 people, 3 people, 20 people, it was just nothing significant. And I was like, yeah, I could do this with my eyes closed. It's not a big deal. And then I had one of my coaches say this to me, which was just perfect and germane. And they said to me, Lorianne, did you ever crash and burn when you spoke? And I was like, yeah. And they said, would you have preferred to have done it in front of 20,000 people or 5 people? And I was like, oh no, I preferred the 5 people, because those 5 people were impacted not well. And now, and they said, there's a reason why there's a build up to that. So you don't start that overnight success. That doesn't happen. It's an overnight success in 20 years after practice, right? I want to continue this conversation, but we're going to jump to a quick break, and then we're going to come back with the great, wonderful Vince Perrotta. Welcome back to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Coach Lorianne. If you would like to be a guest or lift up your business, product, or not-for-profit, or if you have a question or comment, we would love to hear from you. Email us at healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. That's healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. We really love hearing from you. I personally answer all of the emails, and I love the exchange. Today, we have been speaking with the great Vince Perrotta, our co-host. Love the conversations we have. Vince is a coach as well. He really helps a lot of people. And we were just speaking about awareness and choices and responses. So Vince, where we left off was, right responses, wrong responses, and how there really aren't any wrong responses. It's just different ramifications, right?
It is. And, it's kind of, we just have to accept that at that moment and focus less on, I wish I could, or I should have picked this. Cause I think that's also the other thing is you're actually in that moment with the choice you made. And you're like, God, I wish I had I wish I'd done the other thing. Well, but you can't. Now you're not focused on what you actually picked.
Yeah. So I think a good practice is, once you make your decision, commit to it and just move forward. The woulda, coulda, shouldas really don't serve us. And also, we have to remember, when we make a decision at this moment, we have this much information, and we can only make our best decisions based on what we have. So I always enjoyed when I watch news, which I don't do, and I don't recommend anybody doing. But in the past, when I watched the news and they're like, well, they did this and they should have done that. Well, easy for you to say, to do that Monday, what do they call it? Monday morning quarterback. Yeah. It's easy for you to do. Thank you for the sports reference. I don't do that. It's easy for people to do that because you have additional information that person may or may not have had at the time. So I like us to really think about, make the best choice you can at the time based on as much information that you can gather at the time. That's why I think I don't do spur of the moment purchases, large purchases, because I want to get as much research as possible, because I have anxiety. My heart's pounding out of is this the right thing? Should I be doing this? Maybe I should wait. I have all those questions we all have, but through research and being informed, I make a better informed decision. Do you do the same thing?
I do, but I'm not really good at it. So I actually rely on others to help me be good at it. Yeah, it's one of my, I love what you just said about how you do all this extensive research and you dive deep into it. I will research it, but I always think I don't ask the best questions. So what I do is and I'll tell you very candidly, my son is really analytical. So I will purposely pose something to him just to hear the questions that he's got. And I always think, if you can answer someone's questions, right, and you can satisfactorily address that, whether or not they agree with you, but if you can satisfactorily address those questions, then you have enough information.
Yes.
So, but I think that's such a great point. It's like, you've got to research, you got to study, you got to prepare, and you got to question yourself. That's okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, questioning myself is the best way for me to learn too. It's just, I'm not questioning my choices. I'm questioning so I can be curious. So I like to call it being curious. And you know the phrase I use, which is help me understand, which derives the terror in many people. I don't know why, but it's really for me to help really understand another person's perspective. And like you, although I do a lot of research myself, I will go to experts like you and other people and say, hey, what do you think? Or what thoughts do you have? And that's a really good way to bounce it off of trusted people, experts in their field, just to get a different perspective. You may end up in the same place, which my mom comes to mind. That's why I'm laughing, because my mom was like, well, you didn't do what I suggested. So why do you even bother asking me for my opinion? And I was like, well, there was the operative word. I was looking for your opinion, not for your decision.
See, and you make a great point that lends to something else besides that. So some people will ask, what do you think? And they're not really asking what you think, right? They're asking, why don't you think about how you can validate what my thinking is?
Yes.
And so that's why when you coach someone, I will, and I hate that well, I don't hate it. I love that I use my kids all the time, but my daughter taught me this. It's like, what is it that you really want from me? Like so she says to me all the time, Dad, sometimes I want you to help me problem solve. And sometimes I just want you to listen, right? Yeah. I don't need you to problem solve. Let me just lay out what I'm thinking. I want somebody to hear me out because I'm processed. And I think that's really good. So when you're with a coach, right, what do you want from them? Right? Are you asking them to, like, hey, critique this, tell me what it is? Or are you saying, no, just hear me out on this. I just need a sounding board.
Yeah. A good coach is not going to give you that answer and shouldn't give you the answer because it's not ours to answer. That's not our question. Ours is to help lead you to your own answer through a series of curious questions. So I think to your point, and I always watch you throw things back when we work together. You throw things back at me, I throw things back at you, not because we're being distant and not answering the question, is because it's not ours to answer. It's similar to when we tell other people's stories. It's not my story to tell. If you want to know what's going on in Vince's life, ask Vince. It's not my story. He shared it with me, but it's not my story. So those are the kind of things that kind of run through my mind. And again, it goes back to courage is in the heart, fear is in the mind. And I really love that. The other thing that came to mind when we were talking is, our uniqueness. Each of us are unique, and different is really, really good. And even in the term, in the word, it's unique, as in unique, right? So it's your specific wisdom. Only you have the wisdom that you have because based on life experience. Only you, that's the uniqueness that you carry. So, and we're all like that. So I love difference. And how do you feel on that topic too? Because that goes back to awareness, which goes to choices, which goes to action, right?
So I love that. I led a team for many years. And one of the best things about having this team was no two people were the same. They had different personalities, different approaches, different ways of doing things. And I had never noticed that until I had someone who came into my team as an observer. They wanted to see what we were doing because the team was doing really well. And at the end of the thing, the person approached me and said, I really commend you. You have 10 different people and they are all incredible, but incredible in uniquely different ways. And it taught me because I always learned something every time I worked with one of them, but it was something different. Like if you and I worked together, what I learned with you was different than whatever I learned with Joe, right? Yeah. And it was great. So I love that. I foster that. I seek out people who think differently, not just different thoughts, but think differently than I do.
Yes.
That helps me think and grow.
Yeah, we grow and it helps us with understanding. I look at it as 360, looking at a topic 360. That's full circle, right? I'm looking at it from this vantage, but we have all these other angles that we're not looking at it from. And I'll bring back the sports analogy. Me and Patrick Mahomes, dude, he's awesome. For a young man, he has so much play wisdom, and he has so much awareness of what's going on around him, but he still has all these coaches on the sideline giving him different access and versions and what's the word I'm looking for? Awareness of what's going around him. And he has eyes in the sky. His coach is up there in the box, looking down, looking at it from a different vantage point, giving him insight on things that are going on. At the end of the day, he makes the choice on the field because he's where the action is. But they're, giving the perceptions from those different angles. My favorite part, and I love this, is the after the play and then watching the replays. Why do sports people do that?
Well,
He
that's how we
asks,
learn.
knowing the answer.
Well, that's how we learn. That's how we see that. If it was successful, why was it? People think, oh, it was successful, great. No, that's the first step. Why was it successful?
Yeah.
How can we repeat it? Right?
Yeah.
What were the risks that we kind of overcame? And if it wasn't successful, it's even more valuable because it's like, what did we miss? You look for analogs because you're going to be in that same situation again. I don't want to have the same outcome. I want to have a better outcome.
Yeah, E plus R equals O. Our responses change. Our outcome will be different to the same event. And so they change the plays. They tweak the plays. They find out what it is that could do a better job. It's not like they didn't do a good job because they did what they were supposed to. It just wasn't successful. And I saw a quote earlier that indicated that the best success always comes out after the largest failure.
Yes.
I love that quote. I absolutely adore it. And I have said to many of my clients who are about to bail on their dreams and they're like, it's just too hard. And I get it. It is. It's not, it's not always fun. But I said, all you have to do is hang in because at the hardest point, you're at the top of the mountain. You're just not over that peak yet. And once you get over the peak, the slide is going to be so much fun because you took that extra step, you pushed past, you had courage, and you got to that next level.
So I'm going to tell you that I think that the climb is more fun than the slide because the slide sounds like it's more fun and it's sexy because you won and you're there. But that climb is when you're just overcoming and you're doing it and you can barely see it. I analogize it to you're climbing a fence, you got one leg at the top. You're just about to get over the fence and then, something pushes you down a little bit. You got to struggle back. And, that's the best part because once you're over it and you can do it, well, I can do this, right? Now I want to do something.
That's it right there. That feeling of I can do this. I have it. That's the yummy part on the other side is knowing you can do it. Okay, let's do it again. It's kind of similar to sports. We got a touchdown. Okay, let's do it again. It's kind of like golf. Oh my God, it actually went where it was supposed to go. Let's do it again.
You were doing so well. And I could literally visualize you with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, Monday Night Football. And then you gave that last
the golf. What? I love my golf.
No, it wasn't the golf. It was all right. You're almost there. I think you're at the top of the fence. You got one leg and you're ready to go. We need a little more sports,
I'm still trying to spike the puck.
And
and I'm fired again.
You're a great coach.
Thank you. That's a good thing because as far as being a correspondent on football, Monday Night Football, I don't think they'll be calling me anytime soon.
It'd be great. I can see you up there with it. All right, but more importantly, yes, you learn that you can achieve, you can repeat. Once you've done it, you have that model in your head, and you also have less feeling of angst. Like, oh, if I got to do this again, it's like, no, I got to do this again.
Why? Why is there less feeling of angst?
Because you know the outcome. You know what's going to happen.
And less unknown.
Yeah.
Angst, fear, stress is all about the unknown. So if the unknown no longer intimidates you, all those useless feelings, they're not useful. None of them, except for the fear part where you're running away from a bear. I get that. But even then, you want to be able to hit your stride and not be hyperventilating and shallow breathing. So even then, fear would be good if you didn't have it, but knew you were in a dangerous situation. Go, similar to the wave that you had to contend with, right? You saw it coming. You knew what was going to happen. You were going to handle it the best that you could. Didn't mean you weren't like dying on the inside and scared, but you executed because you knew your equipment and you had the experience. I mean, you've been voting for a long time, right?
Yep. And
Yeah.
I've seen some tough things, and I had never seen that. And but you just do what you have to do. Focus down.
Yeah, you lock down and you focus and you stay present, which is another really important thing for taking action, is being present and aware. Notice everything goes back to aware.
Well, and you have to, because that's that pivotal moment where if you shut down, right, then you take no action, you do fail, and now you've convinced yourself the fear was valid. Right. Whereas if you say, okay, I don't know, Geronimo, I'm doing this, right? Just take a shot. That's when you convince yourself that wasn't so bad.
Yeah. Right? And I
can do that again.
Yeah. You don't want a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you keep saying it over and over again, what is that? It's a belief. Thoughts you think over and over again. Then it becomes a belief. I can't do this. And I don't believe in that word. Besides, can't really is won't. Can't is a word that I find is a victim word. You know how I love the victim words. So it's a victim word, whereas won't it's a statement of fact. I won't do such and such, and that's okay. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to make those choices. Like, I won't continue to service all of these clients because I want to service them a certain way, at a certain level. So I'm making a clear-cut decision that some people I'm needing to place someplace else. And it's not personal. It's not personal.
It's not personal. It's you're taking your emotion out of it and getting objective. It's the hardest thing in the world, because we're all human. Okay. We all, some people are better at it than others, and they can just, they can keep a distance and an arm's length sense of something. But look, the average person, whether they admit it or not, it feels personal, even though it's not.
Yeah. 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 But if you move from that ego, that personalizing lens, and you move into the observer lens, it's probably the best thing for everybody. And those are the things I think when you're doing a transition, you're talking to these clients, I would entertain you speaking to them and showing them all the goodness that comes out of this move for them, something that they may not be able to see at this moment. That's why I used to be a real trigger response, and now I've really slowed down because I have to assess the whole thing, because my initial response isn't probably going to be good. When I look at it though, I'm like, that's when I get curious. I start asking a lot of questions. Is this to my best advantage? Why is this to my best advantage? What is really going to change? Does it really matter? In your circumstance, I know who you're serving. So yeah, of course it matters to both parties, but it's a matter of, will I still be serviced properly? Is this what I want? So I would say, I really challenge the listeners. I challenge you all to be curious. Ask those questions. Questions are good, even though some people feel intimidated by getting questions. And that's why I use the phrase that I do, is help me understand, because it's not questioning what you're saying. It's helping me understand, because that's why I'm asking the questions in the first place.
Yeah. And to go back to something you just said a moment ago, if you've ever been in a store and you go to a certain department and somebody goes, "Oh, I'm the wrong person for that. That's not my department." But let me tell you, we do have that, right? And they say, "Oh, here, if you go here." Now, interestingly enough, that's kind of what you do with your business as well. Not you broadly, right? There are people that we're saying to them, "That's not me," right? That's okay. Let me tell you where you can get what you need, because that's what's most important. And normally, if you're in the store, you're in the supermarket and you're in the spices and condiments aisle, and you need a container of milk, and they go, "No, this isn't the right aisle. But if you go down over there," you're like, "Wow, that's great. Thanks. That's where I want to be."
Yes. Yes.
Why don't we accept that when we're talking about other things relative to our business or training or whatever it is that we're particularly doing?
Yes, that makes the shift easier, because it's like, oh, okay, it's not personal. It's just, you're just not in the right place. That's okay. It happens. To that end, this is the time of year that, I talk about setting goals and, starting to think about, the next year. Right. So, every November I have a Dream Big masterclass, that, right?
Yeah. And that class is pretty unique. Actually, you and I had the experience. we worked together, and you had started to talk about this class. And I remember this one person that was there as you started speaking. They're like, "Oh my God, oh my God." And they literally pulled out, they said they had a vision board. And this one was super excited because she wanted to tell, and it was the greatest thing. Oh, look at this. There we go. I'm the best setup in the business.
I know. And that wasn't even a setup.
No, that was not. That was a real story. We did do that class, and but I think that the reason I'm raising it is that class. It was very interesting because you did that for the group that I was working with, and you helped them talk about that master class, because there were a lot of components to it that I don't think we understood at the time.
Yeah. So the Dream Big Masterclass, and the reason why I have it in November is start thinking about what you want for the next year, right? So this is an opportunity to visualize the most extraordinary life ever for your year ahead, right? And also close this year on an amazing high note and get ready to create that life of your dreams in 2024. So that's really what we're doing. We're taking all this yumminess. We have questions and activities that you'll discover have been designed to remind you of everything you learned, accomplished, and survived this year, right? And so you can remember that you are an incredibly strong and capable person who can accomplish amazing things. So that's what we do in the Dream Big. And then once you're feeling all powered up and confident about your ability to overcome challenges and get stuff done, we're going to open your mind to all conceivable possibilities in 2024 or your next year, whatever that year is. And that's when I go into my annual, this, and this is the show, the class you're talking about is my vision and goal setting masterclass.
But you don't do that. You don't do that planning in the end of the year. Right? That's a New Year's. Why do you start earlier to do that and go into everything?
Because we start marinating in November. We don't really know what we want yet. So we want to start thinking about it and really thinking and giving us time between now and actually starting to write down the goals. So that's why I give it that time. And people aren't ready. They're thinking about holidays and things like that at the end of the year. So the first Friday of every January, we have this vision and goal setting masterclass that allows you to sit down, look at 7 areas of your life and really set those goals. And that's what I did with your team. We set the goals for the year. We set agendas. We set a plan, and then we set action items, which is really, really important for you to have action items. So those are the things that we do. And, I really encourage you to participate in that. And, unfortunately, as per usual, our time goes like absolutely crazy right now. So any last thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I just think I will focus on what you said. All choices are good choices. You're in the place you're supposed to be.
There you go. There you go. Well, thank you all for joining us today on Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. If you're interested in any of these classes, we have links below this particular episode, or you can reach out to Vince. He'll tell you all about it. I hope we have earned the privilege of your time. Vince, thank you. It's always a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Look forward to seeing all of you again next week. And we can be found on all major platforms. So we would be so grateful if you please like, follow, share, and subscribe. Until next time, I am Coach Lorianne, and
I'm Vince Perrotta.
Play a higher role, serve a higher purpose, show up for you, and show up
big.
There you go. Nailed it. Have a great day, everyone.